Hello, hello. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I wanted to come on live because today I wanted to talk to you about glyphosate and the connection between glyphosate exposure and thyroid issues. But before we get into all of this, if you're new to my channel, or maybe you're seeing one of my videos for the first time and you don't know who exactly I am Julie with Balance Life with Julie. I'm a regenerative health practitioner, a holistic nutritionist, and I have successfully reversed hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's in my own body. And I share information about regenerative health and how you can support your body to regenerate and heal itself, because our body is capable of doing that when we support it properly. All right. So before we get into all this, I do have a book. It's called Finding Light. It came out a few months ago. Every single person who reads this messages me and tells me how much they love it and how much value they see in it. And so in this book, I put in some of my favorite go-to protocols, not like exact protocols, but some of my go-to tools and modalities that I use every single day. And so that's all in the book. First part of the book, I share my story, like how some the things that led to chronic illness in my body. Like, illness doesn't just magically happen. Illness gets created. And unfortunately, we live in a world where we're not really taught how our body works. And if we're following blindly what people are doing around us, if we're just following everyone around us, we're destined for illness and chronic disease. So that's what happened for me. I was following people around me and what they were doing, and I picked up their habits, poor diet and lifestyle habits, and eventually there became a tipping point and I got ill. So anyway, I write about all that in the book. Today, I want to try and keep this live as short as possible, but I want to talk about the connection between glyphosate exposure and thyroid issues. This was a big wake-up call for me because so I got diagnosed with thyroid issues back in 2014. I was put on medication right away. And at the time, I was not a practitioner. I didn't know a lot about nutrition or regenerative health. In fact, I knew virtually nothing. And so I went and I went on the medications. And what I was hoping for was that I was going to feel better. And I noticed within a few months that I didn't feel better. In fact, I kept feeling worse and worse, like brain fog, fatigue. I was putting on a lot of weight. When I would get up in the morning and try to stand up straight, I couldn't stand up straight because there was so much pain and inflammation in my body. And so I was on these medications. I wasn't feeling better. And that was kind of what tipped me off that, oh, like, medication doesn't actually heal the body. And in my case, because in the end, it turned out it was not my thyroid, not only did the medication not heal my body, because that's not what medication does. Medication can maybe manage symptoms or suppress symptoms, but it cannot heal. Only the body heals. And if you want to really look at life from a spiritual perspective, I look at life from a spiritual perspective, totally. Ultimately, it's the higher power that heals. But anyway, so because I realized that the medications weren't working, in my case, it was never the thyroid that was the problem. It was actually my pituitary gland. And that was contributing to a lot of chaos in my body. However, my diet and my lifestyle didn't help. Being exposed to glyphosate my entire life didn't help. So what happens when illness gets created in our body is that things start to compound, right? If it was just one issue if it was only one thing that was the problem, then it wouldn't be such a big deal. But it's like, we have the stress of the environment. We have the stress of our lifestyle, being surrounded by technology 24/7, not spending enough time outdoors, poor diet and lifestyle, trauma, which was the tipping point in my case. All of these things, they start to stack one on top of the other, on top of the other. And sooner or later, the body just can't take it anymore. And so illness and disease gets created. So I was put on medication in 2014. I realized very quickly that the medications weren't going to help my body to heal. So then I started looking for other options and I tried all kinds of things, all kinds of wacky things that didn't work. At one point, I tried cryotherapy, which, understanding what I know about the body, there's actually no logical reason for something like cryotherapy to work at all. And so in my case, of course, it didn't work because the root and the foundation of health in the body always starts with quality nutrition, quality hydration, and proper detoxification. If a majority of people did that on a consistent basis, meaning as in every single day, their health would improve. Now, could some individuals need a little more support in some areas? Yeah, most likely, possibly. However, a majority of what's going on is created by poor diet, poor hydration, poor lifestyle. So those are the foundations that we always want to fix. So I went on this hunt and I tried a bunch of stuff and a lot of things didn't work. And in the spring of 2019, I stumbled on a podcast on YouTube, right? And it was Dr. Zach Bush talking about glyphosate and how prevalent glyphosate is in the environment and what it does in the human body, how toxic it is, and how it's connected to many chronic diseases. And that's when light bulbs started to go off for me. I was like, wait a minute. My MD hasn't talked to me about glyphosate. My homeopath hasn't spoken to me about glyphosate. My naturopath hasn't spoken to me about glyphosate. And by this point in my health journey, I had spent thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars, and I wasn't feeling any better for it. And so, real briefly, so if you don't know, I have talked about glyphosate on my channel before, but so many people still don't know, which is why I keep talking about it. And I'm going to keep talking about it until more people listen and understand that this toxic herbicide that is prevalent in our environment impacts absolutely every living being on this planet. You are not a magical unicorn that is going to bypass the damaging effects of glyphosate exposure. And the issue with glyphosate is that we're all exposed to it 24/7. It doesn't matter if you're living in the most remote parts of this world because glyphosate is water soluble. We live on a water planet. Our body is mostly water. So when you unleash a water soluble toxin on a water planet, it creates havoc. And so, what glyphosate is, so for those who don't know, glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup that is what's sprayed on GMO crops. And there's about 4 billion pounds of it that gets unleashed into the environment every single year. And once it's sprayed, it can go anywhere. It goes into the waterways, it goes up into the atmosphere. And yes, it's on the food, but even if you're somebody who's like me, is like I'm very mindful of where I'm sourcing my food from. I get as much regeneratively grown food as possible, but I know I'm breathing in glyphosate. I know it's getting into my body through my skin because our skin is our largest organ, right? And so that's how it's getting into people. What it does in the soil is it actually disrupts the microbes in the soil. It kills the microbes in the soil. It disrupts the earthworm population in the soil. And why this matters is because our nutrients come from our soil. So if there aren't any nutrients in the soil, then the plant isn't going to have nutrients. So it destroys the microbes in the soil. In plants, it disrupts a pathway known as the shikimate pathway, or I've heard it say shikame pathway. Some people say shikame, some people say shikimate. But anyway, it disrupts that pathway, which is an amino acid profile, which impacts, the amino acid profile of the plant. And then what it does in our body is and so the way that Monsanto originally got their approval to spray glyphosate and to spray Roundup into the environment is that they said it doesn't hurt human cells, which, yes, it doesn't hurt human cells, but we are more microbe than we are human. Our microbial cells are 10x what our human cells are. Our gut microbiome is made up of microbes. And so when we're ingesting glyphosate unknowingly through the air we're breathing, the water we're drinking, through our skin, through the foods that we're eating, what happens is it destroys our gut microbiome. And this is the connection between thyroid issues and glyphosate exposure. So, the other thing that glyphosate contributes to is something called leaky gut. So we have this thin layer of cells that separates our gut from the rest of our body. And leaky gut is when those tight junctions start to come apart and the contents in your GI, the undigested food particles, pathogens, parasites, those things start to leak into the rest of your body. Excuse me. They start to go into the rest of your body, and they can go into any tissue that they want. And that is what contributes to autoimmune conditions, things like Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, MS, and like so many other, lupus, so many other autoimmune conditions that people are suffering from. And what Dr. Zach Bush and his team did was they actually traced the amount of glyphosate being dumped into the environment, and how certain people, especially the people who are living along the path where the most in the farmland area where the most glyphosate is sprayed, there's a higher rate of autoimmune conditions, infertility issues, and cancers like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So you can search all this. In fact, oh shoot, I have a book that talks all about this. I don't have it handy. I have it in another room. Anyway, there's been multiple exposés on glyphosate. And you've probably seen that last week there was a big march on Washington talking to eliminate liability protection for Bayer, who now owns Monsanto, for dumping glyphosate into the environment. And so they were able to remove that protection. So you can sue Monsanto, or Bayer rather. And there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of lawsuits against Bayer for the use of glyphosate. So it's interesting because Monsanto sold to Bayer back in 2018. They got a very good deal. Bayer got a very good deal on Monsanto. And at the time, this stuff was just starting to come out. I think just after the sale of Monsanto went through, there was a settlement in court because Monsanto was sued by, I mean, Monsanto's been sued by so many people. But anyway, Monsanto was sued and they were found guilty. The jury awarded the plaintiff like tens of millions of dollars. And then shortly after this, the sale of Monsanto went through and now Bayer owns it. Now, Bayer, if you're not familiar, is a big pharmaceutical company from Germany. And they coincidentally also have a cancer drug that addresses non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, this is kind of like the perfect playbook when it comes from, like, if you just look at it from a business standpoint. They help create the problem, by spraying glyphosate into the environment. People get sick, people get non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then they sell them the drugs for the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Meanwhile, what's happening in the court system is there's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of lawsuits against Bayer for the use of glyphosate. Now, here's the way I see it. It's in the environment. We are all exposed to it. It doesn't, okay, yes, of course. Are they in the wrong? Yes, they're in the wrong. And we should definitely be able to sue them. However, suing Bayer does nothing for your day-to-day exposure to glyphosate. And that's the real issue. That's the real problem. And so with what I do, I'm always focused on, well, how do we fix the root? How do we get to the root of the problem? So when I heard Dr. Zach Bush talking about glyphosate and what it does in the human body and how it destroys health, I wanted to figure out how to get the glyphosate out of my body. That's what I focused on. I said, if I'm exposed to this toxic chemical 24/7, no matter where I go on this planet, then I want to get it out, right? I want to be proactive. Suing Monsanto is not going to do anything for me, right? Should they stop spraying it? Yes, absolutely. They should stop spraying it. But here's the thing, even if there is a global ban on spraying glyphosate into the environment, first of all, glyphosate isn't the only herbicide, pesticide, or toxic chemical we're exposed to. We're exposed to many, many, like literally hundreds and hundreds of chemicals every single day. We just don't know it because we can't see them. That's the issue. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is, even if there is a universal ban, it'll take at least 50 years, 50 years for it to clear out of the environment, if that's even possible. Now, they stopped spraying DDT decades ago, and they still find DDT in the environment. And so just because even if something gets banned doesn't mean it's going to clear out of the environment like tomorrow, right? So this is why it's really, really important to look at it from a truly holistic perspective. Like that's kind of what I do, is look at it from all angles and go, okay, well, people are still impacted by this, right? This is affecting their health. Just most people have no idea. I've been talking about glyphosate now for 7 years, 7 years. And if I walk down the street in my neighborhood and I ask some of my neighbors, hey, do you know what glyphosate is? They have no clue. But I bet you they're dealing with gut issues. They're dealing with some kind of chronic health issue and like kidney. So just to kind of get you up to speed, glyphosate exposure is linked to kidney disease, autoimmune conditions, infertility, autism. What else? Well, thyroid disorders. Like pretty much every chronic illness out there has a connection to glyphosate exposure. And part of that is because all disease begins in the gut, and glyphosate damages the gut. So when you have a damaged gut, it's only a matter of time before some kind of chronic illness pops up, right? That's how it's really literally connecting the dots. You got to connect the dots. And so I wanted to figure out, after I found out what glyphosate is, I wanted to find out, how can I get this thing out of my body? There must be a solution. And lo and behold, there is. And I've been working with that solution now for 7 years. 7 years. In fact, this is what helped me to reverse hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, was getting the glyphosate out of my body, also improving the quality of my nutrition and working on gut health and addressing parasites. But getting the glyphosate out was part of the equation. So this is how simple it is. And I tell everyone, like, if you can't do a transformation, this is the basic thing you can do. Take this herbal support every single day and take the greens every single day. Why? I love that my cup says joy. Because what happens is this herbal support, it's all herbs. You can even actually empty it into your shake. I do that most days. This will remove the chemicals, the heavy metals, glyphosate from the gut. It will help repair the damage to your gut. It's been clinically proven to do so. And what else does it do? Oh, and it also functions as a pre and a probiotic. These greens, they're superfoods, but they have something in them called beta glucans. And what the beta glucans do is they go into your body and they help remove microplastics. So, and everybody's exposed to microplastics because, again, like glyphosate, we're breathing them in. A lot of fabrics that people wear have microplastics. So that gets into your body through your skin. A lot of people do takeout. They do so many people very proudly, they go to Starbucks and then they have that Starbucks takeout cup. They don't realize that the inside of that takeout cup, you put a hot liquid in there, it's got plastics in it. And then with their hot beverage, they're swallowing some plastics. This is why most people have a plastic spoon worth, like a little takeout spoon worth of microplastics in their brain. Now, I use glass. um, I don't do takeout containers. I mean, I don't do takeout, so that makes it easy, right? And if I do happen to go to a coffee shop, I always bring my own container. I always bring my own cup because I don't want their disposable paper cups that are a scourge on this planet as it is, not to mention the microplastics on the inside of the cup. So I really focus on reducing the amount of exposure I have to toxins, and then the toxins I have been exposed to, getting them out. That's the secret sauce, baby. That's the secret sauce to helping your body to heal. And so if someone can't do an ultimate lifestyle transformation, which is always my first recommendation because it's going to give the body so much foundational nutrition, it's going to support proper detoxification, plus you're going to do parasite cleansing with it, a couple of rounds. But if you can't do that, do this. Do this on a daily basis, and you will be amazed at how much better you feel. And this is third-party tested, and still, 7 years later, still the only solution on the market. And that's why I've worked with it for all these years. So I did the transformation. That was what I did almost 7 years ago. And I did that steadily for 6 months. And in that transformation, not only did I address diet and gut health, but I also addressed parasites. And by the end of the 6 months, I was able to completely come off thyroid medications that I had been on for 6 long years. And I finally got my health back. I finally got my life back. um, and what's interesting is my entire life, I had suffered with like this low level depression. And it would come every few months. And then obviously after my husband passed away back in 2012, and then I got diagnosed in 2014, the depression got worse. And I didn't want to be medicated for it, but it was just always there. And by the end of this program, that depression went away. It's never come back. Like not once. It's been almost, I don't know, it's been over 6 years, right? It's going on 7 years since I started on the superfoods protocol. And yeah, it's long gone. And the connection that I make, I think the reason that I know that the reason that I think it went away is because this helps work on gut health. That helps with mood. So what a lot of people don't realize is that 80 to 90% of the serotonin in your body is in your gut, right? 40% of the dopamine in your body is in your gut. So those are those feel-good hormones. But if your gut is destroyed because you've been exposed to glyphosate at low-level amounts your entire life, and that's been damaging your gut, well, of course you're going to be depressed. Of course you're going to have anxiety. Of course you're going to have all of these mood disorders because the issue is in your gut. And that's why healing, really, the foundations of healing are improving the quality of your diet, improving the quality of your hydration, working on your gut health, addressing parasites. Do those things. Oh, and of course, detoxification from chemicals and heavy metals. If you do those things, and there's a way to do that very, very simply, then your health will improve. It is inevitable. Okay. So that's what I wanted to share. I'm actually off to do a Vipassana meditation retreat, my 7th Vipassana meditation retreat. I'm leaving in about an hour for it, but I wanted to do a live video and just talk about glyphosate because I see it so much in the news, and a lot of people are talking about it, but most people don't understand what exactly it is, what it does in the body, how it impacts our health. And marching on Washington is not going to do anything to change the fact that glyphosate is in your body. You need to get the glyphosate out of your body. And this isn't like, I've taken this support now for almost 7 years. And I don't take probiotics, I don't take multivitamins, but I take this and I usually empty these herbs into my greens because I know I'm exposed to chemical toxicity every day. It's just part of being human. And so I am proactive. I want to make sure that I'm doing simple things every day. This is super simple. I do simple things every single day to keep my health on track. Okay. So if you have any questions about the content, please post it below. And if you haven't gotten my book, go get it. It's amazing. I'm not just saying that. That's what people tell me. And if you're not already following this channel, follow the channel. Share this video with someone that you think it might help. Especially, like, I really want this content to reach women who are dealing with thyroid disorders, because glyphosate exposure and thyroid disorders are definitely linked. And real quick, the other issue with having a damaged gut is that it really negatively impacts nutrient absorption, because your nutrients are being absorbed through your small intestine. But if your gut is destroyed because the microbes in your gut are destroyed, it's going to impact what little nutrition you're getting from the foods you're getting. Foods that you're eating, you're going to get even less nutrition. So this is why we always want to fix the foundations. We always want to go for the roots first, and then see what else is available to be addressed. Anyway, hope this helps. Please share this content, follow the page, do all the things, comments below. And when I come back from my meditation, I will address your questions. All right, bye for now. Stay healthy. And I'll see you in the next live, whenever that is. Bye for now.